I broke up with my girlfriend because she's a communist. I guess I should have known. There were red flags everywhere. Welcome to Shave&Butcher. And I'm wearing my Montreal Canadiens t-shirt today because you know what? The Habs are in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Who would have known? I never doubted. Yes, I did. But they're there, so looking forward to that. But today I'm going to talk about shaving with a safety razor. Now, why would you do that? Well, there's tons of reasons why you would want to shave with a safety razor. It's nicer than any other kind of shaving except straight razor shaving that I prefer. It's economical. It's a bit of fun. It adds flavor to shaving. It turns shaving into something fun rather than a daily chore. And it's not that difficult, and I'll walk you through it today. First up, there are different kinds of safety razors. And I'm not the biggest expert. You'll find better YouTube videos out there, but here's my take on it. So this is a very standard one. This is a King C Gillette that you can purchase in department stores and pretty, normal shops. This is a 3-piece razor. It has a handle, obviously. It has a bottom or a base plate, and it has a top. I don't even know what this is called. Top plate, perhaps, that has a screw, goes through the base plate, and you screw on the handle, and that's about it. Except you need a razor blade. So razor blades you can purchase from a lot of different places. They're special for shaving. Come in packs like this. You typically buy 5 or 10 or 100 of them. This is what they look like. You will have seen them. Your grandfather might have used them. So in this kind of razor, you just put the razor blade onto the screw, and it goes into place like this, and you screw on the handle, and you're good to go with shaving. There are a few other kinds of safety razors. For example, butterfly type razors, where you screw this thing at the bottom and it magically opens up. And where's my blade? I lost my blade. Here it is. You want to be careful with these things because they're damn sharp. You simply put it on top like this, and you screw it shut. Same kind of shaving, they do different things. They do the same thing, although the technique of loading is different. Then you have adjustable razors like this one. This is also a 3-piece razor, so it has a top that I put somewhere. I probably lost it. There it is. And you put it on just like you did with a King C Gillette, and it goes on the base plate, and there's a screw. There's a screw at the bottom, so you screw it tight, and then there are markings, and you can set the aggressiveness of the shave by screwing this. So what this does is it opens up or closes, which changes the distance from the base plate to the razor blade, and that basically changes how aggressively it cuts. So these are nice. They're a bit pricier. This is a Merkur Progress from Germany, and the good thing with them is you can play around, or you can have different settings depending on mood, or depending on if it's your first or second or third pass, because you will want to have, you will want to have a shave with different passes. We'll get to that. Sorry. Then you have razors with different blades. This is a gem style razor. They have blades that are a little bit trickier to come by. They're thicker, they last longer. It's a single edge razor, so it only has cutting action on one side, whereas a double-edged safety razor cuts on both sides, and you can change it around, and you do want to do that so you wear out the edge of the blade more evenly. Then you have injector blade style razors, where you have yet again a different kind of blade, and it's all a mechanism for loading, etc. You can pick and choose. They all do the same thing, and they do it rather similarly. If you get into this as a hobby more, you probably will purchase more razor, try different razors, see what suits you best. There are artisans and even commercial companies who make them new, but you can buy a used one, or rather a vintage one, which is more interesting perhaps and quite a bit cheaper. That's it. I'm going to load up and then do the shave. As you can see in other videos, I talk about lathering, so I won't do that today. I also talk in other videos about mapping your growth patterns, so that, because the hairs grow in a certain direction, right? And it typically varies around the face. So when I do my first pass in a minute, I'll go essentially with the grain, with the growth of the beard on the face on the first pass, and on the second pass I go essentially against the grain. So mapping that, and I do talk about that in can't remember, one of the other videos in the series, and watch that and you're good to go. So I'll lather up and be right back. Okay, so lathered up. Lathering is a big and fun part of traditional wet shaving, and watch the video on lathering. So I've loaded up the Mercure Progress with an Astra green blade, which is my favorite. Literally hundreds of different kinds of blades out there. Which ones are the best? It's all a matter of preference, although some are, pretty unanimously voted as not very good. But you'll find your way. Try different blades, see what you prefer. But it's loaded up. This is on setting 3.5, which I typically use. That sort of defeats the purpose of having an adjustable razor if you always use the same setting. But this could be any of the razors that I showed before. So I typically rinse it under water. I don't know why, but I do. So first pass, essentially with the growth of the beard, so I know which way it grows for me. Now, basically just a few things you need to keep track of. You need to find your angle. So what should that angle be? I'm not even going to talk about how many degrees or anything like that. Sort of that angle, and as you move it across your beard, you'll find where it cuts and where it cuts comfortably. And if it doesn't cut, you need to change your angle so it does cut. Best advice I can give you. Another thing to keep in mind is to not push the razor onto the skin too much. Use as little pressure as you can. You still need to put it on your face because it does need to cut, but use as little pressure as possible. I'm shaving with my right hand, so I'm on this side of the face and my arm goes this way. You can use both hands, you can do whatever you want, whatever is comfortable. But find your angle. There, yeah, it's cutting, and just touch the skin as little as possible, and I do short strokes. Short strokes is better in the beginning. You don't have to, can go all the way down, but then typically it doesn't cut as effectively as you want it to. Lather gathers up here with the nasty hairs in it, so I rinse it quite regularly. Pretty easy going, open surface. I've got about a week's worth of growth, which is more than usual. So look at that, nasty. Swing the razor around, use the other side. And just make sure it cuts everything. Basically, it's not going to be perfect. There will be hairs left that needs cutting sometimes, especially if you have a few days of growth. But just keeping the angle, light pressure, short strokes. I move my face a bit around to make sure the skin is not stretched, but in a position where you don't cut yourself, because if you go across areas that aren't smooth and straight, you can get cuts and nicks. Under the nose, a bit tricky to get all the way under to make sure you get the hairs on the top. So you want to do horizontal and then turn it down a bit. You can cut your nose when you do this. Learning experience. All the way up. Gets clogged up a bit. There are razors that have no safety barrier at the bottom. They're called open comb. Well, it kind of does, but it doesn't have this solid area. I probably have one of those. Again, matter of preference. It's proving to be quite a lot of hair to remove today. Careful on the lips so you don't put it on your lip. Just feel your way. Okay, there it is, under the lip, and go. And I make little grimaces. I put my tongue in. And I go to the jawline. Since I do this, I can shave all the way down so that when I relax, I'm actually below the jawline. That's a bit easier because then you can concentrate on getting the rest when you do the other side of the jawline. If you have a week's worth of growth, a straight razor is actually better. There's a bit of blood there. Not a cut as such. I call that a nick. It goes away when you rinse with cold water afterwards. Rinse often to make sure nothing's blocking the blade. I've used this blade 4 or 5 times, so it's on the verge of needing replacement. Again, I put my head up
to make sure the surface is as smooth as possible. You can see I'm not getting everything there, so it's borderline too much. So how do you know when you How do you know when you need to change blades? Well, you feel it. If it doesn't cut properly, or if it isn't comfortable, get a new one. If you go on for a long time, so I'm doing this rather slowly today, your lather might dry up. And then just applying new lather. Okay, that was the first pass. Quite the task for this razor. So still hair left. If you shave on a daily basis, you will not see visibly. You know, you won't see that you're not cutting all the hairs properly, but you will feel it. So a second pass is essential. If you have sensitive skin, and perhaps in the beginning when you're trying to learn, you can do a second pass in the same direction as the first pass, so with the growth. Because when you go against the growth, you put more strain on the skin and you can get irritation. That's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going the other way, doing the same thing. You don't have to, but what I do, and this is from straight razor shaving, is to make sure the skin is stretched enough. I put my finger under here because if it's not stretched and the razor skips, you will get cut. So going against the growth can feel a bit uncomfortable because you're getting closer to the skin, closer to the blood even. Corner of the mouth, be careful. Try and do grimaces so you keep a smooth surface. This is an easy spot to get a cut. Mustache, a lot of people, I think most people go upwards. It's called a fool's pass because you can cut your nose. I don't. I go sideways. It's up to you. I use a towel to pull the skin or hold the skin, because the skin is so slippery from the soap that I need to use something to get a proper grip. You don't have to be as careful when you use a safety razor as when you use a straight razor. But you can still get cut, and this keeps bleeding. Corner of the mouth. Very light touch. And I hold the skin down. And I just open that up one more time. Under the nose, I just do this. You want to be careful so you don't get the skin caught and the razor skips, because then again you will get cuts. Since I used my fingers to hold the skin down underneath, well, here, I reapply lather. This is where you want to be careful. Did I do this part? I'm sure I did. Sometimes you forget. So chin, hold it down. Very carefully, short strokes. Rinse frequently, turn the razor around. Essentially, when you don't hear a cutting sound or barely hear it, you're done. You've done enough. Okay, so a new lather and against the growth on the lower area. Careful here when you address the razor, very light touch. Don't talk while you shave or you may get cut. Raising my head up to try and smooth out the surface. And I can barely hear anything cutting. Bit trickier to get the angle right, so as you move around corners, you will need to change the angle of the razor, but you'll find out. You can feel and hear if there's cutting or not. That's me done. Quite a few people go on the third pass where they go across in either direction. If you want to, afterwards, you can do touch-ups. So, wet hand, and I feel where it hasn't been perfect. So here are tricky areas for me. So to get a perfectly smooth shave, I can touch up in these areas. And then I will try to go slightly across. Well, sort of. Because if you do, you've attacked the beard from 3 different directions. And with your hair growing in different directions, and I have a swirl, sort of tornado-looking growth there, which is impossible to get perfectly. But if you go at it from different angles, you increase your chances of getting everything cut super smooth. That's it. So, gonna rinse. And that's me done. Now, this won't stop bleeding. So, what I do then is I take an alum block, alum stone, which you can find wherever you buy your razor blade, and I put that on there, and sometimes that helps. This might have been slightly bigger and deeper than what this can help out with, but it's worth a shot. There are other tools as well, so I think that might have done it. If you want to, and if you want to avoid irritation, with your skin's still wet, you can use the stone on the entire area that you shaved. And what this does is it helps close out super small cuts, even the ones you don't see or when there's no bleeding. And that can reduce the irritation you get after the shave. You put it on, doesn't have to stay on for long, so I rinse it off pretty immediately. And we're good to go. And I can feel it's a really smooth shave. In the beginning, perhaps don't overdo it, because if you whack at your face for a long time, eventually you'll get irritation. You might get irritation anyway, and you'll find out which number of passes and which directions of shaving that suits you best. Aftershave, important. What are we using today? Yeah, I'm going to use a Turkish, cheap and cheerful Turkish aftershave. You can use anything. You don't even have to use an aftershave, but it's part of the fun. There are ones with alcohol in them and ones without. You don't need the alcohol. You know, it used to be to sort of, what's the word? Disinfect the skin, but with a clean blade and good soap, and you don't have dirt on your face, you don't really need the alcohol. But it gives you a slight burning sensation, which is part of the fun. Moisturizer is good, so, and that was not moisturizer, that was something else. But I almost always put a bit of moisturizing cream on it. It can be a purposely made aftershave type moisturizer, or just anything which is made for your face. Keeps the skin in good condition, makes you look good for longer, and that is the shave. If you have any questions or comments or objections, please leave them in the comment section below. Meanwhile, and until the next time, take care, stay safe, and stay sharp.